welcome to the Andy Hardy Show podcast, and we're coming at you almost live here with Mike. It's good to be back.
Great to be back. Missed it.
Yeah, me too.
All right. We've been talking about what to talk about recently, and it's been kind of fun. One of the things that we talked about was maybe stepping away from the, you know what? I think I might have to take these off because I hear myself twice and it's breaking my thought.
Okay, no, that's fine. Okay.
So if you're okay with me not having these on, I'm okay with me not having these on.
No, I'm fine with that.
All right, cool. Good deal. All right. So, what were we talking about? Taking maybe a break from some of the religious topics, even though there are still a whole lot of fun ones out there to discuss, and switching more over to current events and politics and things like that. Another taboo subject that you're never supposed to talk about in polite company. But no one ever accused me of being polite.
Yeah, no, I get that. Let me make sure. I'll take my headphones off as well. I think we're okay. I am gonna blah, blah, blah. I want to double check that that's all right. But, yes. Oh, God. Where to begin?
Yeah, with the headphone thing, just a quick comment. When you were speaking, it sounded like it was reverb. When I was speaking, it was an echo. Like digital delay.
Yeah.
I don't know
and
if
it
you have that
could,
kind of effect in there.
It could be. Like, I only...
Does your amp or your mixer have effects on it?
No, not really. I mean, it's pretty basic. I'm using OBS. But,
right.
Well, you do it so that you can monitor your audio so that you can be like, hey, and I'm too far away or I'm too close and crap like that. But, I mean, I think for the most part, I think we should be okay without the headphones. I love the idea of doing it without. There are a lot of more modern podcasts and they're not using the headphones.
Sure.
Excuse me. That's this. Yep. Oh yeah, it's on there.
Good deal.
Anywho, so I mean, we've got some interesting current events going on. I think you wanted to talk about.
Oh, I've got several. One's not necessarily a current event, except that we have an administration, Republicans across the board, that think for some reason men should be able to make decisions over women's bodies, which I find highly offensive. I really do.
Can I just divert a little bit there?
Yep.
So last night I watched the majority of it. I didn't watch the whole thing. I can't do drawn out B movies, and that's one of the things. This is something I think that I don't understand is it's a B movie. Like, accept it, make it 30 minutes long. It can still be enjoyable.
Right.
And I think that that frustrates me. I think that's where YouTube really steps in and helps for a lot of things. But anyway, I was watching. That's actually a good idea. Maybe I should download it and edit. I was watching Teeth.
Who?
Teeth.
It's
are you familiar with it?
I've never heard of it.
Okay, it's a horror, a thriller, which I don't know why they put those two words together, but it's not thrilling. It's really shitty.
It's just horrifying.
But it's about a girl who's in a Christian club, purity club, the purity ring, all that shit. And then it follows her. Like, they don't make it, they actually, I think the one thing they did that was interesting, she lives under the shadow of a nuclear reactor.
Oh.
But they never made it clear as to why she had a specific condition. But she has vagina dentata, which is, the myth.
Is,
anyway, but they give you hints as to both things, but they make it seem like she's developed it because of all the abuse women have taken. And so she basically has the ability to have sex with men, but if a man is having sex with her against her will, she can
engage.
Yes, destroy his penis with teeth.
A little bear trap thing going on there.
Yeah, which is interesting. I don't know why I found that, but I think again, like timing. That movie, that was 2007, but right now would be a good time for someone to try and remake that film.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, it definitely is. So the religion and the politics now start crossing lines, because I think if you look, outside of evangelicalism, And I don't mean necessarily just Christians. I'm talking about Muslims. I'm talking about Jews. I'm talking about all the ones that are in favor of a patriarchal society.
Yeah,
even the Hindus. It drives me nuts. Like, we don't see a lot of them around here because it's a small town and it's lily white and all that shit. But like in Portland, we had a fairly
diverse.
Decent Indian. Well, it was definitely a diverse group, yeah, for sure. But they're fairly populous Indian, representation. And the men would always walk 10, 12 paces ahead of the woman and or women. All the women were at least 10 or 12 paces back. That used to drive me nuts. I hated that.
Why is that? Why do they do that?
Well, the man's the leader. It's patriarchal, just, like here and everything else. I've been reading and posting
So it's just symbolic?
Yeah.
BS?
Yeah. And, I've been posting some things, from Muslim imams, and they come up with some just wild stuff. One of them said something like, whenever you have sex, don't get all the way naked like donkeys, because if you do, that invites Satan into the room. When you're clothed,
what the fuck?
Angels are watching, and that's cool. But
angels are watching.
If you get all the way naked, the angels are ashamed and they leave, and so the devil will enter, and your child will be gay.
Your child will be what the shit? That's amazing.
Come up with this shit?
I was watching someone, and they were saying, "Have you ever been on a date with someone?" And like it gets to a point, and the girl's like, "God is watching us. Don't do that," or something. Okay. And it was a comedian. That's what it was. I want to say Kevin. It wasn't Kevin Hart. It was one of my brothers having me watch this comedian do stand up, and he's like, "Fuck yeah, he's watching us, and it's his favorite show."
Nice. Yeah, I wish I could remember the other two. I just saw them yesterday, but I don't remember. But I mean, they're like crazy. I do remember one of them. So. In most of the Muslim-controlled countries, women aren't allowed to drive. And
yes.
One of the reasons that one particular imam came up with was that if a woman drives, the car, she'll feel vibrations from the car,
my God.
And it will cause sexual ecstasy, not ecstasy.
Ecstasy.
He didn't say ecstasy.
Stimulation.
Well, yeah, basically the idea is it's going to make her come. She's going to have an orgasm. From driving a car.
Well, that's pretty much illegal in the Eastern countries.
Right, and that's bad too, right? If a woman enjoys it, then holy hell, that's no good. And then the other one I do remember, the guy said, if a man has sexual release with a sheep or a goat, there's no sin involved. The only time, because when he releases his lust into a sheep or a goat, it's okay. No sin was involved. The only time that there's a sin involved is when it's with a woman, because then because that's an actual sexual thought. The other is just I don't know what it is, but anyway, it condemns the animal. The animal's unclean now, and you have to kill it. That's
insane,
right? Like, and all because or some shit. I don't know.
So. If you have sex, you have sex with an animal, you're basically like releasing a demon, or you're releasing the evil spirit or whatever into that animal. So does that mean that goat's just going to go like hump the shit out of everything that it sees? Is that the idea?
Yeah, basically.
That reminds me.
One of them said, I'm sorry, one more.
Yeah, no, go.
A man is allowed to have sexual pleasure with a woman as young as a baby, as long as he doesn't penetrate. If he penetrates, then you're right. Then he's responsible for her subsistence for the rest of her life. He can't make her one of his normal four wives that he's allowed, but he has to take care of her, and he's not allowed to marry her sister.
The fuck? Where does this come from? Now, is that any specific like subcult, or is that any specific religion, or is that just kind of a generic?
This is all Islam.
Okay, that's Islam.
I think it's Shiite. I think these are, or the Sunnis. I actually don't know that, so I'm not even going to go. But yeah, I mean, the Prophet Muhammad married his favorite wife when she was 6. He waited out of respect until she was 9 to consummate the marriage.
Oh, what a respectful gentleman!
Right? Yeah, it's just the whole thing is just
That's just bullshit.
Right?
That's just like, it's so disgusting. Like, I want to have something to say about it, but I'm like,
it's dumbfounding, isn't it? I mean,
there's no words.
Yeah.
I don't you can't, there's nothing like to come up with to really say to that. You're just like, it's so obviously wrong. You know, I was watching a Joe Rogan. Do you watch Joe Rogan? I was watching one of his podcasts last night.
He used to host Fear Factor, and he's
funny. Okay, yeah.
He's very funny.
So he was saying, I can't remember the subject matter, but he was talking about, I mixed him up. I'm sorry. I was watching Bill Maher. This is what the quote I'm coming from came from Bill Maher.
Okay.
Which
I do like Bill Maher.
Yeah, and again, I think like he's interesting, and I don't always know where he's coming from.
Right.
So in that regard, I'd say, take him with a grain of salt.
Sure.
Like, don't watch him and get offended about anything.
Right.
The people you should get offended at is a news anchor who's supposed to be unbiased. See, and the thing is I was watching somebody talk about, I think maybe he brought it up on his show too, and it's the fact that they're supposed to be unbiased. Everyone's biased to some degree.
Right, absolutely.
It's the fact that they're dishonest about their bias. It's not that they're biased that's wrong, it's the dishonesty. It's saying, when I sit down and I say, look, I'm coming,
reporter.
Right, I'm coming from this angle at something, it helps you determine what's important for you to take away from what I've given you.
Correct.
And that's where we've gotten all sideways, is when someone sits down and says, I'm giving you the news straight. The world's going to hell.
Right.
Well, no, that's not the, you know what I mean?
Straight,
like, you don't, the traffic report's a traffic report. You don't go, hey, 61, 67 is jammed all the way up to such and such, just because it's not, because that'll get more views. You don't say that, but yet when it comes to politics, we go, oh my God, XYZ, fill in the blank. Falling. It's terrible. Exactly. Yeah. And that's wrong and stupid.
It's kind of the same thing as the, anti-discrimination. Like, don't discriminate, it's bad. Well, you know what? Everybody discriminates. Because if we didn't, there'd be no reason to have a McDonald's and a Burger King, okay? That's all I have to say about that. But
well,
anyway.
And that brings me back to the whole Bill Maher thing and what he was talking about. There are degrees of things.
Right.
Right, so there are degrees of discrimination.
Yes.
There are some forms of discrimination that are useful to companies to be able to possess, right?
Yes,
you don't want to hire a criminal.
Right.
Who's going to cook your books and steal all your money.
Steal you blind, right.
Yeah, you're, right? But at the same time, there are some people that you're going to wind up not hiring if you're over-discriminant that would do good for you and would be good for them to work for you. So just saying flat out you can't discriminate, period, hire whoever walks in off the street, that doesn't help anyone.
Well, you got to hire somebody who's qualified, right?
Right.
And, who knows?
Right.
At first, on paper, the criminal might look to be the more qualified. That, certainly that happens. I mean, they didn't.
Right.
Criminals aren't always the idiots that we see on World's Dumbest Criminals, right? Mm-hmm. A lot of them are pretty smart, and they get away with it for a long time, and then they do one stupid thing.
Well, the good ones are. There are plenty of bad criminals out there, too.
Awful lot of them. Yeah.
So I mean, and they give the good criminals a bad name.
Yeah. But I think that's true of anything. I mean, there are probably more mediocre to bad employees than there are good employees, like stellar standout employees.
As far as I kind of buck against the whole the general idea that you need to get up every day and go to work for someone else.
Right. I'm going to trade my hours for your dollars.
Well, exactly. The thing is we look at it, we're taught to look at it as normal when I don't think it shouldn't be seen as normal to the degree that it is. People should be aware, okay, earn a living. Well, what does that mean? Well, for some people, it's $500 a month. For some people, it's $5,000 a month.
Right.
What does it take for you to earn a living and then spend?
I've been in both places.
Right. You don't have to spend your time. You need to spend your time being happy with who you are.
Yes.
And the big problem is people go broke because they're trying to earn a living, they're trying to be normal, but they're spending all of their money, they spend all those hours trying to make up for the misery they've endured because they spent 8 hours a day for 30 years working for somebody else instead of doing things they wanted to do. That doesn't make any sense.
Well, because we've been sold on the idea of the American dream. The 2.4 kids, a dog in a yard, and a picket fence, and
that's
a nice
some
house
people's
and all
dream.
That shit.
But it's not everybody's dream,
right? They sold us on that. So we spent all this time doing that, and I did it. I felt guilty of it for a long time, and ultimately it turned from a dream into the kind of dream where you wake up in a cold sweat in the fetal position with your thumb in your mouth screaming for your mother.
Right,
it's not quite as good as it seems on
on paper.
Yeah.
No, and you're right. It does. Well, and look, it's the fact that we're all different, and think about how many people. Okay, when the West was settled, when America was colonized, I'm sure the numbers exist, but I mean, what are we talking about? Maybe a few thousand, a few 100,000 people.
Oh,
and
man.
Then what are we now? Well, of course, even if 40%, 45, or even 60% of the current America base, their dream is to settle down and go to work somewhere at a specific location and spend the rest of their life in one spot or work for someone else. If that's good, that's still only 65%. We're talking about or 60%. We're talking about another 40%, which is almost half of everybody's not built for that, but there's no system for them. There's only a system for everyone else who falls into the normal category.
Normal, right. Well, I mean, think about the guys, and there are many, they're not a majority, but they're a way tiny minority, but the people who totally want to go off grid, right?
Right.
Send me to a place in Alaska where I can just grow my own crops and live off the land. And,
I really don't think that's that small of a group, to be honest. Once
it's a big
are,
group. I'm just saying it's a small minority, compared to everybody else.
I don't. So, 'cause, I mean, you look at the homeless rates, and so here's the thing, is that psychology is so far, and in fact, this is one of the amazing things, Mindhunter, I don't know if you've seen any of it, but it's about the psychology basically coming and emerging with the FBI. Where and there's a moment in time where they were like, black and white and, blah, 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 and straight down the line and everything.
Right.
Okay, you murdered someone, instead of saying, okay, what made this person, are they crazy, and can we prevent someone who with the same issue chemically from doing the thing again? How do we do that, as opposed to, put them in the electric chair?
Right.
But what I was saying as far as... damn it, now I've lost my train of thought. We were talking about...
Well, so you mentioned Mindhunter in the psychology.
Just general psychology. Right? As far as
off-grid, going
right.
off-grid.
Well, psychology's way behind the times. But people are homeless for a few reasons.
Sure.
So, I mean, some people are homeless because they cannot mentally or physically handle the stresses of what it takes to own a house. If you own a house, you work a job because you're paying for the house. Right. But you can't work a job without a car. So you need a car, you need car insurance.
Yep.
And I mean, this shit adds up. And I mean, in the cheapest town in America, you're going to spend $1,500 a month to exist. So that means if you work a job and you make less than $2,000 a month, that means the vast majority of the time you're at work is simply being eaten up by bills when you get home.
Yep.
Money-wise.
Yep.
So you're not seeing any real return from that other than just being able to exist.
I made $85,000 a year at one time and lived paycheck to paycheck.
Anybody can do it, yeah.
I mean,
and that's something that, again, is totally off topic, but I get such a kick out of. I'm looking at people who want to act better than you. Okay, you drive a Tesla, you drive a Porsche, or I don't care where you live.
Right.
You're not any better than me if you can't hold on to your money any better than I can hold on to my money.
Right. Exactly so.
And that's where people get really fucked up. That person's rich. Well, no, they move a lot of money.
Yeah, they move a lot of money.
Moving money doesn't make you wealthy.
No, it does not.
So a guy who lives in a house that costs $25,000 and has it paid for and is independent, financially independent.
Right.
So he can work if he wants, so he doesn't have to work.
Right.
That guy's wealthy.
Sure.
Because he actually has life control, and you can't. You want to be Elon Musk, or you want to be the next. Why was Mark Zuckerberg able to do? Why was Bill Gates able to do what he did? Well, because he lived in his parents' garage and ate pizza for 3 years and just worked on something, and then that's where people get fucked up, is they think, I need to, I got to put in 85 hours a week, I got to do this, and what they don't understand is that the more you are your most valuable asset. And the more you wear that asset down, the more you exhaust that asset, the more you're going to have to spend on the other side.
I mean, Gates is
kind
of... Sorry, I got sidetracked on Gates.
Yeah, no, that's fine. Go for it.
He's kind of a little bit of an anomaly because he ultimately, yes, he worked his ass off for years, and that's true. He was very proud of the 7-hour turnaround, that he would leave work and go home and eat and sleep and shower and come back to work and be there in less than 7 hours. Less than or equal to 7 hours. So, yeah, he'd spend at least 17 hours a day at the office. Mm-hmm. He was proud of that, and that was cool. Right, good job. Go Bill. But he also was able to parlay a $50,000 investment into a $350 million deal with IBM. Good job, that.
Yeah.
I mean, so he basically bought MS-DOS, right? The original MS-DOS. He bought that from a guy. Hey, go ahead.
Right, and I want to interject because here's the thing: is so we go. What people tend to see is they're looking at hours and they're looking at numbers.
Right.
What they're not looking at is how emotionally fulfilling was it for him to do his job.
He loved it, otherwise he wouldn't have done it.
You're not going to go to Walmart and have a 7-hour turnaround and not want to kill yourself in 3 years, right?
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it's just just doesn't exist. You're going to have to be emotionally fulfilled. So he was emotionally fulfilled, and then the big question is, would he have done the same thing if he wasn't getting paid for it? And the answer is yes. Because otherwise, that's why you go. You should go to work because it's what you love to do. I mean, sometimes you have to work to pay bills. That's a totally separate thing, but that is a means to an end. That should not be 40 years.
Your life.
Right.
And the problem was, and you touched on it earlier, was that, you have to work to pay the bills and whatever. And by the time you're done, you come home and your check and and it's gone. But the thing is, you can't do that in any city, in any state in the United States at minimum wage. You can't work one full-time minimum wage job and live.
So and I want to interject because you're absolutely right. Yeah. You can't live the American dream on minimum wage. Mm-hmm. But that's also, there's a really good excuse for that. Minimum wage is not meant to live the American dream on. But if you really grind yourself, so minimum wage, and I realized, anyway. I ran the numbers a while back. So minimum wage, I want to say the gross, I think the gross is, if this might be the net, but the gross is $16,000.
Well, 2,000 hours basically. That's going to be, 14,000.
Well,
plus,
seven. It's
plus
7. The minimum wage is
7.70
an hour.
7.25.
7.7. It's not 7.70. Because I just
in some states it is, but the national.
Oh, the national average. Okay. Well, so in Missouri it's 7.70. That's $16,485.
Okay. Yes, that's correct. Okay, good. Yeah, I'll shut
up. So that's a lot of money. But it doesn't look like a lot of money because where we live and because how we've been told to live.
Right.
When you're paying $65 a month for internet, that's a drop in the bucket. Like, it's the money-wise. $16,000 is not going to get you very far if you're going to do what average Joe does. But if you work I always tell people, you should work as hard at spending your money as you do at making your money. And what I mean by that is if you're going to buy something, you should put as many. So if you're going to buy something for $300, so if you make $10 an hour, spend at least 30 hours shopping for it. Because it took you 30 hours to make that much money.
To make the money.
Right.
Okay.
And then now, you don't always have the time trade-off, but the idea is, if you go, I want to buy $300 audio sound system for my car, right?
Right.
Well, if you're not prepared to spend 30 hours doing research to get the best one for your money.
For that money, right.
Then it's obviously not worth it to you.
Right.
So that's a pretty easy no-brainer. Okay, I could definitely do something better with the money, right?
Right.
And at the end of the day, if you do put the 30 hours in, you not only you have you don't necessarily have to put that much time in, but you've got the very best thing bang for your money.
Right.
Right? But you've also developed a skill set that potentially could be used later on. And that's audio equipment research. And whether that just simply saves you, and that's where people really get jacked up, is they don't understand that if you are really just careful with how you spend your money, you can save yourself millions of dollars that other people are going to spend thoughtlessly.
Right.
And that's where having like financial classes in school would really come in handy. But $16,000 a year, it's not impossible for you to get an apartment for $700 a month and split that 3 ways with someone else.
Well, okay,
that's hard.
But
that's 16, a little bit of hard work.
$16,000 a year, so that's pre-tax dollars. Mm-hmm. So after tax dollars,
it's not that bad because it's a smaller
number, right? Mm-hmm. So let's say it's only a couple of grand for taxes, so you're down to $1,400, right? So call it 14,400.
Yeah.
Yeah. Call it 1,000, right? Call it
1,400. No, that would be intolerant. That would be.
Yeah, that'd be horrible. Right, but so call it 14,400 because it makes the math easier. That gives you $1,200 a month to spend, right? Mm-hmm. Well, $1,200 a month. Yeah, you can get by on $1,200 a month. You're gonna be. I guarantee you're gonna be looking for assistance. If you have roommates and stuff, that'll help.
So that's
some
where
people aren't suited to roommates.
And that's where you've got to kind of go. So there's a new. I would like to call it a trend. I hope it's way more than a trend, but people living in their cars, basically. but not living in their car. So you can get a gym membership for like $30 a month.
Right. Been there, done it.
Right. And you can take a shower. Right. You can take a shower.
Yeah, man,
and there are people who live, and again, temporarily, I don't think that's the end of the world. And I don't look down at, first of all, if you've got like a bunch of shit packed in your car and it's like suspension's way down, you've been doing it for 10 years, you maybe find a different way to live,
Right.
But I mean,
or, if it's spend $50 a month on storage shit.
If it's a if it's a means to an end and you're,
I've done that too, by the way.
Right. Well, if it's a means to an end, you're showering at a health club or whatever, and there are a lot of ways just to minimize the bills. But so you're right. People aren't suited to roommates. You probably know someone. So we've got couch surfing now, which is an online site. I think that's great, where you can literally rent a couch from someone for like $15 for a night or something if you need. Okay. That's, there's still a little bit of risk involved there, but still.
Well, yeah. Anytime you take someone into your home that's a stranger, or you go into someone's home that are strangers,
there's some risk.
There's risk, yeah.
But at the same point, if we're talking...
Is there any vetting process for that?
Yes. Okay. Yeah, there is. Right. So it's similar to Airbnbs.
All right.
Where there's a minimal... It's better than Craigslist.
Yeah.
But it's nothing's perfect.
Right.
So... what I was saying is there are ways around a lot of things, and I know that not everybody has the opportunity to live with their parents, but there is this stigma in America that you can't live with your parents. Like,
I don't know why, because
I don't know. Yes, a lot of foreign countries is very normal, and in fact,
China.
A few hundred years ago, it was if your children got married, your child married someone else, you just build another wing onto the house. That's how that worked, right?
Right.
Go buy your own house.
Yeah.
But we've really gone backwards, and so the importance is on. It's become a really importance on the visualization. So do you have the car? Do you have the house? Do you have this? And it's not about the internal piece that someone has. So the people coming back around to the whole homeless issue, or the people living rough or living in their cars, there are a lot of people living that way who have way more internal peace and are happy.
Absolutely.
Because they know that they're not spending 40 hours a week at a job simply so they can keep a roof over their head, not because they need a roof over their head, but because the TV, or because American society's told them that's what they need to be normal.
Right. Well, and if you believe TV, right, I can go to New York and I can park right in front of my apartment every time. Because, my apartment, it's my spot, apparently. I don't know how that works. But anyway. And the apartment is this huge, like, upper story of an old warehouse. It's just decked out, and it's gorgeous, and I've got big windows everywhere. And
if you want to pay $30,000 a month for it.
Badinga. Yes, that is correct. So, but then these people are, like, working as waitresses at a coffee house. Like, no. I don't.
Yeah. So, I totally get that. No, it's a lot of crap it's really jacked up. Just the idea, like we were talking, the American dream. Well, it's not everybody's dream. So don't force it on everybody, and don't think bad about everyone who isn't actively achieving it.
Right. Right. Agreed.
But back to so you said that's $1,200 a month.
Yep.
There is a way to live on $1,200 a month.
Oh, I know.
There are many ways to live on $1,200 a month.
Jesse and I do it.
Right. Well, but the problem is people. There's a way to live on that and actually save money, but people aren't.
Yeah. We don't do that.
Right. Well, people just don't. I don't know how to say it. Self-control's not. Obviously, it's not popular. Right. But it's not taught, and it's not it's not like, hey, this person lives with them and they're mean, probably a good person to hang out with or be around.
Right.
It's like, oh, this guy blows all of his money, let's go hang out with him because maybe he'll give some to us.
Right.
And that is, again, how do you fix that mentality? I don't know.
Right.
Time will tell, but
it's hard. Anyway, that was fun.
Yeah.
But we were talking about, women and men controlling them at first.
Oh, yeah. Before we went crazy.
I don't know why men think that they have the right or responsibility to dictate what happens with the uterus and the reproductive tract of a female. I don't get that, right?
Hundreds of years of thousands of years of indoctrination and. I mean, it's funny because that's one of those things that would be funny to kind of go back in time and be like, so what if women were the dominant one? Like, what would have happened? That, you know, I mean, we've seen matriarchies.
Right.
Our matriarchal societies.
Right. Matriarchal society.
Not many of them. I'm thinking when I say Colombia was one. Something in Southern America. And I know that some of that carries over into Mexico to an extent. Yeah. But anyway, but I mean, we've got. It is weird.
But everything that happened in a little circle in the Middle East, that's all patriarchy, and it just went.
Yeah, well, it got popular.
4 billion plus of the population is Abrahamic, therefore patriarchal, and
that's 2/3.
Almost.
Ish.
Yeah. It's rough stuff.
It's a little bit crazy. I mean,
It's a lot of bit crazy.
I don't know. Something made it spread like wildfire. Okay, so. All right.
Ready to go.
Yeah,
I see the wheels turning.
Let's move on to something in current events.
All right, let's go in current events.
Well, let's talk about the Stormy Daniels things.
Let's go Stormy. All right.
Let's talk about because porn is such an easy. It's easy to talk about. I don't know why.
Yeah, I'd like to call it low-hanging fruit, but that's got double entendre written all over it. Right. So let's not do that. You're right. So, is she credible?
Well,
Absolutely.
Okay, let's go there. Fine, because
while we're going there, I think I'm going to graduate.
The Baptists are just church people in general, I guess. The ones who are just crazy about the purity. Oh yeah, go pour yourself a glass. Awesome. Go for it. They would obviously be like, well, she's had sex with so many people, which to them, like, oh man, like that's a whole nother can of worms to open up on another day. But the idea that there were years and years of my life that I believed if someone had sex with more than one person throughout their life, they couldn't be trusted. Like, I mean, like,
at all.
Yeah, if you had sex with more than one person, like, and you were like, buy the double cheeseburger, it's a better deal than, I couldn't follow that advice because how could you be trustworthy? You've had more than one sexual partner.
Right.
I couldn't know what you've thought unless, I don't know why. Like, what, do you have to just, I don't know why that is connected like that. It's just bananas to me.
Until I did it, I was scared to death of masturbating because I thought I was going to literally kill my mother. I mean, obviously it didn't. Like, step on a crack, you break your mother's back. Well, no, you won't. And the whole onanism and all that, like, if you spill your seed on the ground, an angel's going to come kill you. Yeah, no, it's not going to happen. An angel's going to come kill.
I don't know that. Yeah, so I mean, that's the funny thing is they didn't. So they would preach against dildos and girls using sexual aids in our church, in our services.
Yeah, sure.
But never say anything about guys masturbating.
Really?
Like, guys masturbating is totally fine.
Really?
For the most part, yeah.
Huh.
Like, it was it wasn't talked about. It was just like, we're not going to worry about it. Right. It's not.
Okay.
It was understood that it was not a big deal.
Boys will be boys.
However, the idea, and this is where guys, and I think a lot of people who like started having children, just like, I'm sure you knew people like it because there's no sexual education. You just start having sex with someone and like they've got 7 kids in 6 years, right?
Right.
And it's like, people, like, you live in a trailer. You can't, you're working 40 hours a week for like $8 an hour.
Right.
You can't afford 7 children.
Zip up the pants.
Right. Well, and it's, but,
or wear a rubber.
So I remember this older fellow telling me, this is so crazy this conversation even happened. Because this guy's like in his 50s, or no, he's in his 60s, and he's telling me, I could never masturbate after I read the verse. Was the verse where the one guy's having sex, right, and he pulls out, basically.
Right, zoning.
Right, yes.
Right.
And he pulls out and he squirts it on the ground, and then God, smites him dead for that or whatever.
Right.
So he's like, I couldn't because I knew that I was.
Genesis.
He said I knew I was grieving the Holy Spirit every time and I'm just like, like at that time I'm like, okay, I'm taking this, and I can obviously never masturbate again because of just, I've heard that, and man, I remember like after that it was like, it was like I made it like almost a month without masturbating. Then obviously it was like. It
wasn't
going to happen.
All right. One of our founding fathers, I think it was George Washington, I'm not certain, but on his wedding night, the sight of his wife's pubic hair shocked him so much that from that point on, he was a chronic masturbator. Never consummated, I don't think. Anything.
He was probably gay.
Likely, yeah.
Yeah, which is not saying that in a bad way. Just
no, it's a thing.
Right. Whatever.
Right. Well, but you got to remember, back then there was no such thing as a gay person. There were gay acts. There were homosexual acts. People did homosexual stuff, but they weren't considered a homosexual person. That didn't come about till like the 50s of last
homosexuality. Yeah, and it was considered. Well, that's a funny thing.
Deed. It was a thing.
Right,
you did.
and some of that stuff was considered like gross indecency, and I know that it depended on the country and
sodomy laws, blah blah blah.
Right. Yeah, it's just.
But I mean, like in Greece and Italy and whatever. I mean, it was cool to, 2,000 years ago to take on a male lover, especially if you were the one penetrating. If you're the penetratee, that's not as cool.
That's one thing. Like, and I think it weighs because of just sort of there's sort of a general childishness about the way that things happen in Greece at that period, like simplicity.
Yes.
Because of their simplicity and openly accepting things, I think in a sexual way they were far ahead of where we're at now.
Yes.
Because there are a lot of.
I mean, it still had some weird ideas.
Well, there are a lot of drawbacks. And actually, this topic, the whole thing about Stormy Daniels, it's one of them. It's the idea that, okay, she was an adult entertainer.
Yes.
She had sex with a lot of dudes, and somehow that makes her less credible than someone who has this narrow version of the world that's built off an ideology, that's built off a theology, that is an incoherent book that's over 2,000 years old that doesn't really make any sense.
Right. Well, so here, just a little aside about Stormy Daniels. Mm-hmm. I've seen her in a ton of stuff. I have. She's beautiful. She's she's got it going on, but she also I can't speak to before she got her own production company, but after she did, every video that she appears in is somewhat educational. Like she always makes sure there's protection used when she's involved in the scene. She lets some of the other stuff go on bareback, but almost all of her scenes, the guys wearing a condom, and there's protection. So the thing that was weird was that she said when she got together with Trump that it was bareback, like that they just were unprotected the whole time, which seemed kind of off to me. But people do their own thing.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, depends on. He paid her $130,000 for
to keep quiet, but that wasn't until 2016, 10 years later. He didn't pay her the money until 10
but
years
think
after
about
the fact.
so $130,000. She'd have made way more off of him if she'd had his kid.
Oh yeah.
So as a business proposition, the idea of having Trump's kid, unless he went bankrupt again, which is another real possibility, but
Absolutely.
I mean,
Right.
I would consider it a less risky proposition. The idea, like if I was in that position, I was like, I mean, it's going to be uncomfortable for a few months, 9 months. But at the end of the day, you have that guy's kid. I mean, well, he's quite a douchebag. So I mean, like, would he do? And would he do anything about it if you did have his kid? But if you did have his kid, there would I wouldn't. The lawyer situation, I don't think would be the worst case scenario.
Yeah. Well, I'm saying getting a paternity suit may not work, right?
Well, that wouldn't be hard because all you need is DNA.
You'd have to subpoena his DNA. Yeah.
And that wouldn't be.
Oh no, that could be done.
Right.
I can see tons of roadblocks and tons of things being thrown up by his lawyers and whatever. This is a witch hunt. It's a goose chase. Whatever. Blah blah blah. And then just throwing back at hers, and so she'd be spending a shit ton of money.
Right, but she was in the hotel room with him, so if she was thinking the way I think about a business person. Again, if she's obviously a good business person in this industry.
Yes, she is.
Her body is her business,
yes,
and she understands that.
Yes.
She probably took his DNA from the hotel room.
Well, yeah.
Would be my guess.
Yeah.
If there was any concern on her part that she maybe, but I mean, I think
depending on how long she was there, she carried some of it out with her.
Right. Well, I mean, exactly. So there's a really good possibility that wasn't necessarily a plan on her part, but if it was to be an outcome, it was perfectly acceptable, and it would have been a good business move.
It would have, yeah. And she did say that he offered her a role on The Apprentice. but it never came to fruition.
Of course.
And then there was Alana Evans came forward, right, another porn star, saying that Stormy had called her from the hotel room when she was there with Trump, and invited her up for a threesome. Hey, come on and party with us. We'll have some fun, whatever. And then Trump got on the line and said some shit, and da 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 da. And it'll
probably turned her off really bad.
Yeah.
I've got the best penis. It's
I know all the penises.
Mine's the best. I know all of them. My penis is basically the biggest. It's actually has a magnet for your pussy. And I grab pussies, by the way, if you didn't see that video. I want you to know, I'm the best hands for grabbing. My hands these are bionic hands made for grabbing pussy, that I can't do anything else with them. So if I do run for president, you'll know someone else is to sign all the bills, because all they can do is grab pussy with my hands. This one I call Pussy 1 and Pussy Grabber 2. If I have to talk any longer than this, I'm probably going to pass out, so please come have a threesome with me. My lawyers will hate me and you forever. Is that okay?
10 years from now, I'm going to go ahead and have one of my lawyers set up a
trust fund.
Yeah. Well, set up a corporation in Delaware. Why Delaware? Because they don't ask questions about shit.
They're fucking Delaware.
It's Delaware. You can set up a corporation for anything, for any purpose. Doesn't matter. You just have to have a business name, and you don't have to have a plan. You don't have to have anything in Delaware. It's awesome. It's a beautiful place. Nevada's a close second, but Delaware, New Hampshire, Nevada, those are all like places where you want to set up your corporations. So Delaware's the cheapest, and you can just fill out a thing and send in $50 or whatever. It's probably more than that now. It's probably $500 now, but whatever. You send in your $500 and bam, you're incorporated. And that corporation, sure, they're going to have to file taxes next year, or they can just dissolve the corporation after they've used it for what they wanted to use it for.
All right, so to be conclusive about the whole Stormy Daniels issue.
Yes,
we were talking about him. Well, we were talking about sex and whether or not having. Well, so okay, that's where, and that's I think what is annoying. What annoys me is there's this idea. Okay, obviously, if you had sex with someone,
yes,
Mike's all jacked up. If you had sex with someone, it makes you more or less you can't be trusted because you've had sex with someone else.
Okay,
right.
All right.
Why does anyone trust Donald Trump?
Well, okay. Well, I'm going to sort of twist that a little bit.
Okay, go.
Look at it from a different angle, and that is, why are evangelicals so eager to make excuses for him? If
oh man, because they bit such a big honking bullet for him.
Pat fucking Roberts came out and said, "Oh no, he was preaching the gospel to that porn star."
I love that. That's my favorite.
I've preached.
High? I want you to know, Pat, I preached the gospel to so many websites.
I got your good news right here.
It's like, what the fuck?
The shit is this?
You don't understand, Pastor. I was preaching the gospel to this magazine. You don't understand it.
I got 3 converts on page 48 and 62.
But she was just about to get baptized.
If the 60-year-old dude that you were talking about said he was spilling the Holy Spirit or whatever, there you go.
No. Oh my God. I know. Well, so okay.
So if your wife
you twisted that around. Why?
I did.
Why are they so eager?
Yeah.
Well, why are they so? It's first of all, it's the fact that, and this is a big thing, like the knee jerk reactions that are taught.
Yeah.
So the indoctrination level, they teach you. So here's the thing, like it's funny because you're like, okay, if you know you have the perfect doctrine, if you know you have the way, the truth, and the life, you know right. You've got it right.
Right.
Why is 90% of what you're taught how to defend it? Right? It's exactly so. They cannot help but defend it because they are taught apologetics. Like you're like, here's how you get saved. Okay, and then from there on, that's it. That's the only bit of like, what do I want to like? That's the only kind of rational approach you get is the Romans road, the approach to salvation. You're baptized. It's irrational, but it's the most rational you're going to see. And then from there on, it's simply how to defend everything that just happened. So it's just like victimizing someone. It's just like when someone victimizes a child.
Yeah.
The victimization happens, and that takes however long it takes.
Right.
The rest of the time is teaching the child how to defend what happened and making sure you don't get your shit fucked up. Right.
You're right. And so I see that. And I don't. The part that gives me, pause is like when, so here's one I saw. This is a meme I saw the other day. Bill Clinton got a blowjob for free. Mm-hmm. Donald Trump had sex with a porn star for $130,000. You tell me which one's the better businessman. But anyway.
Right. Well, more attractive at any rate. I mean.
Well, right. And yeah, so Clinton gets his BJ, right? And the whole Republican army is
they lost their fucking shit.
They lost their shit, and and it was an embarrassment, really. And and Ken Starr with his and we had to watch the testimony, and Clinton was kind of embarrassing in that. He really was. I got to watch it. It was sad. Like when he went off on, well, I guess it depends on what your definition of the word is.
What is your definition of the word?
For the love of God, dude. Is, man. You're a Rhodes Scholar, for fuck's sake. You know what is means. A form of the verb to be. Come on. You got this. But
it's still, at any rate, his intellectual prowess was in some way like, it's better than someone who's just like, sad.
Sad. Exactly.
I mean, that's...
Right.
He's not so much a president as he is a punchline.
We're going to win bigly.
Oh, Christ. Well, so, I mean, why are they so eager to defend him? Because that's what they know how to do.
Because they're professional defenders.
Right.
Okay.
Well, I mean,
I can accept that on
you
its face,
cut off a boxer, he's going to get out of the car and punch you.
Right.
Because that's what he knows how to do.
He knows how to punch,
right? You cut off a lawyer, the lawyer's going to take you to court if he can. Right. That's what they know how to do.
Right.
Christians know how to defend shit. I mean, come on. How many times have you had to defend child molestation, rape, use of pornography by an elder in your church? Right. But I mean, they do this on a freaking regular basis. They get up in their pulpits, they go to their children, they go to their wives, they go to their husbands, and they defend shit on a fucking regular basis. That's all they can do is defend the shit out of it.
I remember my Mormon days, and I was the same. Over the years, I've had atheist friends, right? And even on my mission, there was one guy, Bully. I don't know if I ever talked to you about him, but he, Dutch guy, but he spoke English very well, and super smart guy. I mean, we'd go over and try and Bible bash him, and they'd always bring the new missionaries over to meet him, and and stuff, so we could talk to him about stuff, and it always came down to, well, Mr. Bully, I just have to let you know that I have a testimony of the gospel. I know that this church is true. I know that Joseph Smith was a prophet. I know Jesus was the Son of God, and blah, 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 blah. Which is a total lie, because it's epistemologically unsound to begin with.
Right.
You don't know because you can't know. It's an unknowable by definition.
Yeah.
So to say that is just a bald-faced lie, and I knew that. And, so that led to a lot of stress and consternation, the whole mission. And ultimately, that was going to, it would have been worth ending my life over the time, is all I have to say about that.
Okay.
Anyway, you ready to graduate too? I'll pour.
Well, so let's go ahead and take a quick break.
All right, sure.
And then we'll come back. I'm going to go ahead and stop this.
All right. Let's do this.
Okay. All right, guys. Welcome back. We are back here. And we're back.
Yes, we are.
That's what you need to know. We got a few things to finish out, however much time we're going to finish out here. So,
this one could take up some time, the one we were talking about offline just now.
All right. Yeah, so jump into it, Mike.
Well, you actually started it. You were going to say something about dogs. You have a thing about dogs.
Okay. Well, I have this. Yeah, let me talk about that. So I have this thing about dogs, or just animals, pets in general. And that is, if you can't take better care of an animal, a dog, a cat, a parrot, whatever it is, then it can take care of itself in the wild, then you shouldn't own it, right?
Yes, I agree with that. That also should apply to a child.
Exactly. Well, and that's kind of what I was going to segue into. You were talking about pro-lifers aren't pro-life, they're pro-birth. So you go ahead and take it.
Once the fetus or parasite is detached from its host, in other words, has been born,
evolved or whatever,
has been born. Yeah. Like, I mean, so once, as long as the embryo, fetus, whatever, zygote is inside the woman, it is a parasite depending on that organism, the woman. Okay. Once it's out, a baby is still going to be dependent on someone. It could be, society. It could be an orphanage. Could be whatever. Could be the mother. Most likely the mother. Ideally the mother and father. Sure. But dependent on someone for its existence. Now, I know a lot of people that's going to be unpopular with. I get that. But they don't care. Reality is what it is. And, your acceptance or like of it is not required. So moving on. If you ask a lot of the people in control of government right now, if that child has parents who can't afford to eat, well, then they should just work harder, or they should get a job, or they should do whatever. They don't want to take care of the baby once it's alive. And that was the essence of my point, that they're not pro-life, they're pro-birth. We'll do anything we can to get that child born. After that, they just kind of fuck off. They don't.
Right. I want to bring that around to a lot of kids that I went to school with. And a lot of, we were talking about this earlier, were we on? Yeah, we kind of addressed the subject of kids who had never had any sexual education getting together, having like 5 kids living in a trailer, right?
Yes.
Right, so you got a bunch of kids. That is not pro-life. The fact that something's living,
right.
Is that really life? Is just being alive life?
Subsistence is not life.
Right. No, you need to, thrive.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Well, putting 4 kids in one room and making them all, that is not a life. That's not any kind of a life.
Right.
And so that's not pro-life.
No, it's not.
That's just you had a kid. Congratulations. That kid doesn't have a life.
Right.
You're forcing it to exist somewhere. Right? So, I mean, let's just bring it around, to the family with the 13 kids, right? In California.
In California.
Right?
Yeah.
Okay. Great. I mean, that's a great example for the pro-life movement. Hey, guess what? I'm pretty sure they never used any form of contraception. They had 13 kids, and they changed them to their beds.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
So tell me how in any way is that better than someone using birth control?
Well, according to them, that's what Jesus wanted. But whatever. We don't have to get into that. But when they went to Vegas,
Jesus can go fuck himself.
Agreed. When they went to Vegas to renew their vows, right? And the Chapel of Elvis or whatever the hell, he just assumed that there were just a lot of young kids, but they ranged in age from 2 to 29.
That's insane.
And for him to think that the 29-year-old was just a teenager or a child, like 13, 14 max, because of how malnourished and and non-thriving that they were. Yeah. There's a whole hell of a lot wrong with that, and that they're being both held on. Well, they're being held on $10 million bail each.
Yeah. But
cash in, by the way, not bond.
Right. Okay. So now I think that's a good subject because you were talking about
the death penalty versus abortion.
Yes, death penalty versus abortion.
Yeah.
There's a situation. I mean, again, given my raising, given my background,
right.
I want to see a monster from Pacific Rim just stomp these 2 people into the ground. Right. I mean, that's what that is would be emotionally fulfilling.
Godzilla, Gargantua.
Right.
Sure.
That would be fun to see, but. And I mean, I guess, were I a Roman emperor, I'd be like, yeah, I definitely want to see these people try and fight their way out of a lion's den. That would be enjoyable. But I don't, again, in making an argument for not having the death penalty, why did these people do this? And is solving that with the people who lock their kids in a base, or who chain their kids to the beds.
Yeah.
Isn't it more important to solve why they did that and prevent that from happening than it is for us to get the gratification of watching them die?
Well, I think so. I agree with you on that. Government is kind of stepping in some places, right? To stop some of the Christian scientists. That it's such an oxymoron. It makes me I go cross-eyed. But
I'm a Christian scientist. I use science without any of the science, just Christianity.
Right. Wow.
Should have said that with an Australian accent.
Agnostic gnosis.
Right?
I don't know what that is, but like, you know, whenever a child could be cured of something, and the parents decide to go ahead and let it die rather than treat, you know, provide treatment, right? So type 1 diabetes, the parents won't give it insulin, the child dies, totally preventable, la-da-da-da-da. Well, in several states now, those parents are being tried as criminals. As
rightfully so.
Yeah, I agree. I totally agree. But then that kind of, does that cross a freedom line? You know, because...
Well, okay, so yeah,
does that
but
take away
no, because we don't have the right to commit murder.
Their First Amendment right, though, of free practice of religion. Their religion denies them. So the
well,
problem,
no, but I think so. I think that's a moment where, if medicine's advanced, if science has advanced to the point where we can say, your kid will die if it is not treated. At that point, it becomes a murder, because at that point. What's the difference between you with motive pointing a gun at someone's head? You want them to die. You're assuming they're going to die. Right. What person who actually gives a fuck about someone's life is like, oh, yeah, well, I'm just going to, you know, this ideology or this theology that I have says X, Y, Z, and I assume there's an afterlife. Well, okay, first of all, let's just look at the afterlife they believe in is just self-gratification and gratifies a god. It just sucks a god's dick.
Yeah, it's
who's a piece of shit.
Concept.
It's weird and it doesn't make any sense. And so you're going to take that, just self-gratification, to an extent where, yeah, I'll let my kid die over this belief. Dude, I'd fucking break, like, I don't have kids, but I have people that I care about enough that I would break every religious code or belief that I have over to save their life. Why the fuck wouldn't you?
You would. Heaven. God. Jim Jeffries, I don't know if you've seen him. Have you seen his bit on it? But he talks about it. He's, you know, I'm not scared of death because I'm an atheist. You know, I know I'm just going to rot in the ground and that's going to be fine. He's an Aussie, so his delivery is more fun than mine. But he does get to a point where he says, you know, I don't want to go to heaven. I don't like the concept of heaven. I don't enjoy life as it is. And the thing with heaven, it's eternal. And no matter what, after a few years, you'll get fucking bored.
Well, you would, yeah. I mean, especially of...
Because, you know, even if it's the greatest experience ever, you know, a perpetual orgasm, as some people have said, you know, it's that great. It's like perpetual orgasm. You know, after a couple minutes, man, I'm exhausted. I need to take a breath, you know?
Well, perpetual orgasm isn't fun.
Maybe a sandwich or something. I mean, because, you know,
but I mean, so there are people who have disorders where they orgasm constantly.
Right.
And they talk about how painful it is and frustrating it. Like, I mean, I understand they're living this life, but that wouldn't be, it's not fun. After a while, it gets to a place where it isn't fun. Your body builds up a tolerance to it.
Yep.
And the idea of the eternity that we're pitched, that's not fun. Like, and it's funny because you're not really ever given the time to sit down and really think about what they tell you heaven is.
Right.
But how is it enjoyable to live in a house that's made of gold?
Right.
Roads that are covered with gold.
Right.
And then sing praises to a being who, according to you, for some unknown purpose, they don't ever say, God's going to reveal why he ever did shit. Right. They don't say that. That might be interesting.
It might.
It might be sit down and be like, okay, so he's gonna talk. He's gonna talk us through all this shit.
Does he explain himself? Good.
They really don't. Yeah. All they do is they say he's gonna. There'll be the Great White Throne Judgment.
Right.
Where he sits there and he's like, okay, you're an unlucky fucker. You're a lucky fucker. Right. You're an unlucky fucker. You know,
you're on my naughty list, bitch.
Sorry. Right, pretty much.
Oh, you picked the wrong religion. Damn it. You know, I know you were a Christian. I know you worship Jesus. I know that. But you know what? It was the Mormons. The Mormons had it right.
Right.
Yeah, we were looking for Mormon. You put down evangelical. Well, fuck off. Or, you know, pick JW, pick whatever. Homer Simpson said, you know, we go to church every Sunday. What if we pick the wrong God? We're just making him madder and madder every Sunday, going to the wrong church.
Yeah.
He worded it better, but whatever.
Right. No, you're absolutely right. Like, and so, you know, you have all that, and then you're going to spend eternity worshiping the guy who caused every bad thing that happened in your life.
Robert Heinlein wrote a novel called Time Enough for Love. The basic idea is about this person, Lazarus Long, who has an abnormally heightened longevity in his genes, right? So he lived like 239 just on his own, 239 years of age, right? Didn't age, whatever. He still looked 80 years old when he was, or not even 80 years old when he was 240 almost, whatever. But then by the time he was born, not too long before World War I. So we're looking at 100 years from now, where he's where technology and science have evolved to the point where they can rejuvenate him. They can make him younger. They can replant his memories in him. He can keep on going. And this goes on for 4,000 years. Okay, so the story takes place, Time Enough for Love, it's called, and the story takes place with him. It starts off with him in a hospital bed, and he's pissed off. He just wants to die. Like, God damn it, let me pull the plug, and they won't let him because he's the senior. He's responsible for so much shit that's going on. Because he knows the past, he can prevent him from repeating it. I recommend the book highly to anyone listening. Anyway, it's a beautiful book. It's awesome. It's got a section in the middle full of quips and quotes and stuff that are also brilliant. But his whole thing is, I just want to do something new.
Yeah, eventually
I've done
there's
fucking everything. I've been a carpenter. I've been a plumber. I've been a lawyer. I've been a doctor. I've been the president of the United States for 4 years, for fuck's sake. I've done, I've done everything that can possibly be done. I want to try something new. And if you can, and that was the deal that he makes, is if you can find me something I haven't done, yeah, we'll talk. I'll stay alive for that. Otherwise, I want a button.
Well, yeah, I mean, we want to do something. We want an experience. We want to be productive. We want to do something. But I think, again, with the whole just to kind of go on topic, but not on this topic.
Come back. Right.
The afterlife, like having an I believe there's something else, whether it's another dimension.
Okay.
Interdimensional. My personal thing.
So multiverse kind of thing?
Maybe. I don't have, I haven't had access to a whole lot of information on those types of, other form of belief other than mine.
We're stepping into
but just what I've had, my own personal feeling, I believe there's something inside the earth. A cavity inside the earth where something else exists.
Interesting. Okay.
Due to the amount of people who have disappeared and the amount of people who have claimed to have seen it. That makes sense.
Okay. All right. No,
and maybe it's ideological. There are a lot of black places on the earth that, for one reason or another, haven't or won't be explored.
Okay.
Right?
Right. Where did Atlantis go?
Where did Atlantis? Right, exactly.
Right, okay. That kind of thing, is that?
And in a way, yes, but in a more so the deepest place that anyone has explored is in Russia. And I want to say 8 miles. I don't think it's that far down.
So you're not talking about the Mariana Trench?
No, not in the ocean.
Okay.
No, the deep, and the oceans.
That's the deepest.
Right, the ocean's mostly unexplored.
Right,
a good amount
James
of
Cameron and others have been down Mariana Trench.
Right, but that's the thing. It's not been mapped. It really hasn't all been explored. To me, it's like with all of our technology, everything that we have, why?
Yeah, haven't we gone below?
It's not like the money isn't there.
Right.
It's not like the reasons aren't there. There's got to be there's something,
Okay, you talked about psychology. I think this is a psychological issue. Okay, so to look into the ocean is as though we are, as a planet, exploring within ourselves, where instead we've been all getting excited about exploration outward. Everything's about expansion, right? Like we started here and we've moved out, moved out, and we moved out, and we moved out, and then we explored and we covered all the earth.
But we didn't go in.
We never explored in. No, we always went out. And so now that's the first thing. We go, oh, we got to the moon. Cool. Now we're going to go to Mars, and then we're going to go, where else, who knows what. But yeah, that might be. Nah, not might. I'm almost certain it's a biological thing. It's an evolutionary thing that we've had sort of developed an instinctual seeking outward behavior.
Right.
Rather than looking inward. Looking inward is a relatively new concept. With 20th century psychology to look in.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, and what am I doing? I'm so drunk, I don't know.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
I agree with you on that, and I don't understand why, with the tools and the things at our disposal, the best thing we have to describe what's on the inside of the Earth is a drawing that is outdated and inaccurate. So, I mean, I was talking to a friend the other day, and he's saying, well, we know that the volcanic crust, beneath the crust, there's the lava fields or whatever it is that they say is whatever that cause the volcanoes. But the thing is volcanoes are not everywhere.
Right.
Correct. Just because in Russia they got down so many miles, it got so hot they couldn't use their tools.
Right.
That's one little tiny spot drilling into the earth. It doesn't mean that if you went
don't have
down,
to go down very far for it to get that. I mean,
right.
Yeah, so a few miles. You're right.
But where else have we tried?
But very few miles is what I'm saying. Compared to the size,
the distance of the Earth.
The diameter of the Earth.
Who's not to say that? Who's not to say you're drilling into the sun of the universe inside of the Earth? I know that sounds insane. I'm not saying I'm not saying that's the case, but I'm just saying it could be any number of things, and just because you've hit a pocket of something that's hot doesn't mean it's cold, not cold on the other side. It doesn't mean that there's not a way into the center of the Earth.
Right.
And if the center of the Earth is as hot as it is,
yes,
the core of the Earth is as hot as they think it is.
Yes. Super hot.
That's energy. Why aren't we using it? Why aren't we studying a way to, instead of trying to find a way to colonize Mars when Earth has failed us, why aren't we using what's here?
Right.
Well, if that heat exists, why isn't it being
heat is energy.
Used?
Yeah.
Right. The science is there for it.
I don't know that it is.
Is it not?
Well, so there'd have to be a way to tap that far down. Mm-hmm. We don't have materials that would stand the kind of temperatures that would be required to get it.
I think we do.
Release it.
So the I want to call it a silica carbonate is what they use on the front of the space shuttles.
Yeah.
Which is
those are still not coming anywhere near the core of the Earth temperatures.
But again, that's an assumed temperature.
All right.
Well, I mean, is it an assumed or is it not?
I'm going in.
Yeah, you're gonna dig in on the internet.
Yeah. Because why not? We have it.
Right. Yeah.
Right. What is the core temperature of the Earth, and how do we know?
That's a good question. That's how you ask a question, kids. Not only what is, but how do we know? That's the important part.
According to Live Science, a team of scientists has measured the melting point of iron at high precision in a laboratory, and then drew from that result to calculate the temperature at the boundary of Earth's inner and outer core, now estimated at 6,000 C.
6,000 degrees Celsius. But they estimated it based on the melting point of iron.
Melting point of iron, yeah.
But why? They assume that it's liquid. Like, did they get, what's the thing they do with the ground that's, it's a sonic. It's sonic. It's the sound waves going down into the ground, and they measure. They typically use it to find, like, bones, civilization, any kind of structure under the ground.
Yeah.
But I don't know that it would reach that far, and if it would, how would you know that it was accurately telling you what it was?
You wouldn't know that it was
right.
Iron. That is of itself pretty trippy. I mean, have you seen the Cosmos series with Neil deGrasse Tyson?
No.
It's amazing.
I should watch. Where's it? What's it on?
Well, so it was on Fox, but but they're coming back this year or next. I think it's this year, but anyway, for season 2. But in the first season, and if one way or the other, I'll make sure you get it. I have a copy of it. Yeah, I can get to you.
Okay.
But yeah, we'll I'll bring a drive in. You can download it.
Okay, great.
We'll make it happen. But in any case, so when they look off at a planet, right? Mm-hmm. The planet gives back a spectroscopic vision of light, mm-hmm. and they can tell by that light what elements that planet is made of, or that star, or whatever. They can. I've seen it. I've watched it twice, and I still couldn't explain it to you.
Yeah, no.
But it's the most brilliant thing ever, and I think it's something similar. I don't know. Obviously, they're not like taking a picture and looking at the light that came back and whatever. That's not how it's working with the Earth. But I have, when I see stuff like that, I kind of.
I mean, I love the idea.
I trust them. You know
right?
What I mean?
Exactly. So
because they're showing me.
Right.
And I believe them. These guys are way smarter than I am.
I don't want to demonize scientists
right.
and science.
Right.
But we have a lot of the same problem too with
What's
them
that?
that we've had with the general. We've trusted the hierarchical system. Well, this is what it produced Donald Trump, which was kind of a shit thing.
Have you seen Idiocracy?
No, what's that?
It's a movie. It's a comedy. And the basic idea is that 500 years into the future. Okay, so there's a soldier. Gets caught up in an experiment. They're going to cryogenically suspend him for a year. And then at the end of that year, bam, we're going to rejuvenate him and bring him back to life and then la-da-da, see how it worked. But so the funding got cut. So he's stuck in this cryogenic chamber for 500 years.
Oh.
And then when they let him out, he's stuck in this new society and whatever. And everybody's got to have like a tattoo that shows their identity and that they have to scan every time, and it shows how much money there's in the bank account. It's all like
it's everything.
and
Yeah,
all that shit. Right.
I mean, we can do that. We already have the chip process right now,
They're trying to do it. They're trying to.
Well, I mean, it'll
make it
put
law in
everything
some
and like.
states.
See, that's one of the things. Sorry, okay, to go off on a tangent. That's one of the whole mark of the beast issues. Like someone, just watched something the other day.
Right.
Ladies claiming that flu shots are the mark of the beast.
Really?
Yeah, so much shit. But and a lot of it's general ignorance about what's actually happening.
Right.
And the rest of it is this ideology that has been hammered into people in some cases since birth.
Right.
That this unknown singularity unification exists and is potent and dangerous, basically. No, getting a freaking chip in your hand that can basically do everything your fucking phone can do.
Yeah.
Will that cause the end of society? There's a romanticism. There's something I'm looking for. There's a poetic romanticism there. The possibilities there.
Yeah.
And if it happened that way, fine. But just because the Bible claim, there's so much that I want to. There's so much that would make. Again, I'm a little too buzzed to actually say what I want to say, but
That's all right. Yeah, we'll get there.
It's not hard. It's not hard to imagine a universe that falls by a device of its own making that everyone has access to.
Right. Right. And there's so the idea, in Revelations of, you can't buy or sell unless you've got the mark of the beast in your forehead or your right hand.
Hang on. Which
Right.
plain communities claim is the internet. So the Amish think the internet's the mark of the beast.
Okay.
So,
all right.
just to
Right,
interject, sorry.
Well, I mean, they are very Luddite.
Right.
By definition, I don't know. I'm not really sure scripturally why they chose the like you can't have buttons and you can't have whatever.
Oh, some of that shit.
Right.
A lot. Some
why
of
do you
it's
have to have a beard. I mean,
some of it's
I like having a beard, so it's
some
cool,
of it's traditional. A lot of it's just like any other generational thing where so and so did something this way. So like some guy didn't use buttons because 100 years ago buttons were either made of metal or not metal. They were either made of pearl or horn. I mean, some were made of wood.
Oh, yeah.
Wood buttons don't last; they degenerate too quickly.
Right.
So pearl or horn, which even pearl and horn buttons are still. So to give you an idea, like I'm a tailor, right? So I work on suits all the time.
You know the stuff, right?
So like, plastic buttons are exceptionally cheap, but you're still looking at like $4 a dozen.
Right.
Pearl buttons can run you $25 a dozen still.
Wow.
They're expensive for good ones.
Yeah.
Horn buttons are similar prices. I've seen some go for $40 a dozen, and just depending on the intricacy and the
a dozen buttons.
Right? Yeah, just a dozen buttons.
Wow.
Horn buttons.
Yeah, but I'm just like plastic.
Right.
$4 a dozen for plastic buttons.
It seems expensive. It is.
It is expensive.
It is.
That's a lot. It's ridiculous.
Right. So I mean, you're looking at these people who are the buttonless thing.
Yeah.
Could have just been to say somebody did save money. Right.
Right.
Now it's a religious belief. And so many small, if you just walk into a Baptist church, there are Baptist churches that because they've had 4 or 5 pastors that did X, Y, or Z, they now believe that's he drove a Ford, Chevy's made by Satan.
Right.
Right. And it's just shit like that. It gets absorbed into the DNA of the religion.
I actually, boy, I'm not far off on that. So Utah is heavily Mormon. it's also ridiculously heavily Republican, stupid Republican. And when Ronald Reagan was just the governor of California, like in his first couple terms, he came out to Utah and met with Gordon B. Hinckley, who eventually became the prophet of the Mormon Church for a long, long time. But anyway, so Reagan and Hinckley met together and went over the church's welfare program and how it works, right? And so, just in a nutshell, they have church-owned farms, big farms, right, where they grow corn and beans and stuff and whatever, and cattle and milk. They do their own milk and all this stuff, and it goes into what they call bishop storehouses. I've been to them as a kid. My mom and dad were on church welfare for a while, and that's not an easy thing to do because they tell you, the church instructs you to use up all your resources, then use the resources of your family, then come to us maybe, but go to the government too.
Yeah. Okay.
Right. See if you can get your food stamps. See if you can get welfare, but come to us too, and we'll make sure that you're taken care of in the meantime. So that's kind of how that works. Well, anyway, in order to go to the bishop's storehouse, you have to commit to a certain number of hours at like one of the church canneries or one of the welfare farms or one of the whatever. Yeah, you have to commit to do a certain number of hours of work per week, and then we'll go ahead and feed your family. Well, Reagan loved that. So now we're back in the California up till 1980 when he was elected president, and then we had him from 81 to 89, and whoo boy, did shit go south.
When you say shit goes south, you're talking about just a welfare program?
Well, no, not specifically that, but so he was all about trickle-down economics. He was kind of I don't want to say
proprietor,
of it,
yeah.
But he was the first to actually make it a big deal in America, as in the U.S.
Okay, so let's break down trickle-down, because I know I've heard trickle-down economics. I know a lot of people have.
Yeah.
I have an idea of what it is, but can you kind of define?
Yeah, the basic idea behind it is that a rising tide raises all boats. So
except for the one that it plunges over and destroys.
Right. So basically what they're saying is if we let everybody just, willy-nilly do what they want, the people at the top are going to make a shit ton of money.
It'll eventually,
cool with that.
Right.
But it's going to just, like this guy is going to invest in something. Those guys might invest in something, like stock market or something. These guys then underneath them will, like invest in a new business. Somebody down here, maybe he's just a worker, but because of that, he's going to go ahead and invest, and he's going to start making money. Yeah. What they don't understand is that it's exactly ass backwards, right? You give somebody that doesn't know how to manage money, and I'll absolutely say that I was raised to not know how to manage money. I was.
Most people who are raised very,
all my family, everything,
very religiously weren't, because
you give me some money, I'm going to spend that shit.
Right. Just to go backwards, because that's what we're taught. What is the first thing you do with any money you get?
Tithe.
Right. You're taught to spend immediately. You're not taught to hold anything.
Give it away. Don't save it. No, give it to God.
Oh, and that Jesus is coming back at any moment. So if you just happen to run up a few debts, right? What the fuck? Like, it's just super backwards.
Yeah. It's so stupid. It's not even close to money.
Money mismanagement 101. Go to church.
Right. So yeah, and right. But you give me money, I'm going to spend that shit. Well, so guess what? Even if that rich guy, has to pay extra taxes to the point that it puts $1,000 in my pocket, I'm going to spend it, which means it's going to go right back up to that guy in about 2-3 days.
Yeah. Right. Well, and you need, without education, it's just like,
100% wrong.
It's just like sex without education sucks.
Yep.
Money without education sucks.
Yep.
And then on the other hand,
education is our friend, and we've got Betsy DeVos running that shit.
Fuck.
By the way, Betsy DeVos, her husband, if I have my names right, was one of the 2 founding partners of, drumroll please, Amway.
Oh, not surprising. No.
Yeah. Billionaire bitch that didn't do shit except for, right.
Well, okay, and
sit
so
at the top and let all that money trickle up to her.
I want to say hopefully we're moving forward from the place, but there again, this idea that if someone has accrued wealth or has money, they have good decision-making skills. Now, in the way of money...
Some of them do. Some of them were born into it.
Right. Well, and there's that, but then again, there are plenty of people who have made money because of nefarious of
nefarious.
Nefarious, yeah, nefarious. I mean, my grammar.
Various or nefarious.
Nefarious.
Nefarious is a new word.
Exactly.
Right, that's a portmanteau.
am amazing at creating words.
Right.
I'll take credit for that.
Yeah.
Because of not great things that they've done.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And I just, again, it doesn't make them, just because someone's willing. A lot of people have made money sometimes because they let other people take the fall for them in certain areas. Because it doesn't take anything to steal from someone. And a lot of
sometimes some cleverness, but
with the right, well, a little bit. But again, that's not necessarily doesn't mean
always.
You want that person telling your country how to run shit or
Correct.
doing anything involved on a public level like that. So just because someone has accrued wealth does not make them a good advisor in any means.
Right, and certainly not a moral person. Would you equate not following through on a contract to theft? I hire you. Okay.
That kind of comes down to degrees. So when you say that, again, like you just walked right into this one, man. So I mean,
here we go.
H.H. Holmes fired numerous contractors and numerous builders, not because they had done anything wrong, but because he was building his own private menagerie where he would prey on people. Mm-hmm. And obviously,
pray with an E, obviously.
Yes, pray with an E. Mm-hmm. And obviously, not, oh God.
Right, not an A. Right,
well, that praying similar sometimes.
It very much is, right. I should bring
God, give me pussy tonight.
I have this thing where Frank Sinatra and Donald Trump just had a kid,
and that's my voice.
So
I have the cross between.
It's just wrong.
I should do an album.
Luck
using
be a lady
that.
Tonight, and God
Luck be a lady tonight.
Right.
God give me pussy.
It happened. It was there.
So H.H. Holmes hired these people, and of no fault of their own, he fired them because if anyone had just seen what he built, they would have known, what was going down there.
So he fired them before they got too much knowledge?
Yes.
Okay.
So he hired someone to build a hallway and a staircase.
Okay.
And then he'd hire someone to build another hallway and a staircase. Then he'd hire someone to conceal the old hallway, and you know what I mean, so on and so on.
Okay, so he can do.
Right, so he could have whatever he wanted, and no one would be like, "Hey, H.H. Holmes, why?"
So he was like a genius architect then.
He was smart enough. I don't think he was a genius. Well, he might have been genius on some levels, but then again, back then the technology to define such things wasn't a deal or existed, I guess. Yeah, I don't know that in architectural, he definitely understood. He had some psychopathic, sociopathic tendencies, maybe, and he understood how to.
Told me earlier, but
Right, he understood how to manipulate people. I mean, the selling of the skeletons to the doctors.
Right. Yeah,
they had no no one's licensed
one
at this point. Right.
Or anything,
well, I'm sure they did, but he just knew how to handle it. He handled people, and
he was a defender. He was religious.
He probably was very religious. He knew he was smart, and again, that's where we kind of glorify some people.
Right.
That's again where the right has really glorified Trump. He's a billionaire. He's amazing.
He's the best businessman in the history of business.
No, he's smart enough. Donald Trump's smart enough.
Right.
I want to call him a branding genius. He's not a branding genius. He's just lied to himself enough. He has no problem getting up and lying to enough people to where they believe it too. It's the fact that anyone with an modicum of conscience has a hard time getting up and blasting on any platform how amazing something is if they know that in one respect it may not be the best option for someone, right?
Yeah. So in the art of the deal, tell a person a lie 3 times, and they'll believe you. Mm-hmm. Make it big, make it bold, and tell it 3 times, and they will believe you.
Really?
In the art of the deal. That's his book. And it says that. And, I love how... I don't know that my friend will ever read this, or will ever see our blog, or our podcast. Whatever that we're talking about. Blogcast, yeah. Vlog, whatever. I don't know if he'll ever see it, but he's one of the best software engineers I've ever worked with. He and I used to work together in a tiny little room and sit at an 8-foot table on folding chairs and, and work together. And, we challenge each other, we push each other to write tighter and smaller and faster code and stuff. Back when that was the deal, right? Because now nobody gives a shit. You got like super fast processors, so it doesn't matter. You can write code all over the hell. But he's a Trumper, and I don't get it. I know. Okay, I do understand that back in the day, he's 10 years younger than I am, almost to the day. He's October, I'm December, and we're 10 years apart. Mm-hmm. I introduced him to the works of Ayn Rand, and she's an atheist. She's a libertarian. She called herself a philosopher. She died in 1982. She thought she was a philosopher. She was more of an author, and okay, she was good, but not great. She's influenced an awful lot of people. Paul Ryan is one. Mm-hmm. He's an adamant fan. Even Neil Peart from the band Rush is a big Ayn Rand fan, but not to the extent that he could be. Right? Mm-hmm. He's still a Canadian, so he gets some of the socialistic tendencies that she would be totally opposed to. She's very anti-collectivist, very pro-individualist. She's all about. She wrote a book called The Virtue of Selfishness. It's actually a really good read. Mm-hmm. There's part of it. You may have heard of some of her books, like Atlas Shrugged and
yes,
The Fountainhead,
that, yeah.
and We the Living and Anthem, and I liked them all. I used to be a preacher of hers, right? Like I was totally a disciple, and I fed this shit to everybody, and I fed it to Dan, the guy I'm talking about, and he took it hook, line, and sinker. And now I think I got too much of it on him. Yeah. I was able to see past it and go, yeah, she was right, but then no.
Well. You just say excuse me, the virtue of selfishness, mm-hmm. and there is, again, and religion's really bad about it. And I was just on a forum discussing this with some other people, but you have to take care of yourself.
You do, and there is virtue in that.
And in religion, you never do.
Right.
So you wind up broke, sick, homeless, whatever. It's
as
never
long as you're taking care of somebody else first.
Yeah. You're fine.
You're good.
Right, and it's a horrible thing to believe.
You're storing up riches in heaven.
Fuck that.
Yeah, right in its eye. I agree.
It's ridiculous.
It's a retarded fucking concept.
That's
so
insane. It's
really easy to understand how, like I got sucked into it because,
Right, yeah.
It made some sense. And then, and the Libertarian Party, I was a card-carrying Libertarian for a long time. The party platform does make a lot of sense in some ways. Mm-hmm. The core of it is my rights end where your rights begin. If I'm going to start stepping on your toes in any way, then I got to back off. There's something to be said for that.
Well, I mean, there's a give and take there, and that's where that's where the big debate is the fact that. And I think that's where it's such, and again, it's a big conversation, and
it's a really big conversation.
The conversation. It's like if we could,
because I'm about to make a comment that's going to be like 2 hours in and of itself. But
right. Well, if we could suspend government as we know it, if we could suspend the parties as we know it,
right,
and if there was a way, again, this is where it'd be good for everyone just to get high.
Yeah, right.
If everyone could just go to a mental plane where we didn't have to have an opinion for a moment and could listen to everyone else's reasoning, which is impossible to do.
Correct. But yeah, no, I hear.
If we could understand this, the ideology that my version of what is right and wrong isn't everyone's and isn't good for everyone.
Right.
That we could truly understand that, which I think we're at a better place than we've ever been to some extent.
Yeah.
But we need to step back where government, again, was built to help aid our idea of freedom.
Yes.
And to protect us to an extent.
Right, but people have gotten a little bit kind of crazy with it because here's how. Because we're trying to keep property rights and marry that with the idea of freedom. All right. And what's my rights end where yours begin? And here's the biggest problem with that I've ever seen. And that is, you live upstream from me.
Uh-huh.
So there's a river running right in the middle between our two properties, right?
Right.
So we got a border right here. Boom, boom, boom. This is your side. That's my side. And there's a river running right down through it. right? And I'm raising cows and sheep and shit and on my thing, and you've got a factory up there, and you're just dumping all your waste and your chemical waste and shit into the river that runs down through the middle of the property, and my animals are drinking it.
Right.
That's a problem.
Yeah.
You're right. You're stepping on my rights. But then, if I make a law that says that you can't dump chemicals into your river, then I'm stepping on your property rights, aren't I? And that's where it's kind of become an issue.
A gray area. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, and that's
hard.
where that's where everybody kind of just needs a stern talking to be like, hey, there's one Earth.
Yeah.
We have to live here. We have to make it. We have to make it last. It's not hard to prove what's causing certain things to deteriorate.
Right. Right.
And look, there are strategic locations to put shit. There's a reason Las Vegas is in the desert.
Right. Nobody else is going there.
Right. So there's a strategic way to keep factories and to make factories work, but it shouldn't come at an expense of anyone else.
You shouldn't be killing other people's farm animals.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Exactly. Well, I mean, and you make
the
perfectly
Dakotas,
logical
right?
point.
With the pipeline and the stuff, and don't get me started on that. Fucking Flint, Michigan, and their water that they haven't been able to drink for 19 months now.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's Farmington. We can't drink our water here.
We really can't.
It's
Although
bad.
Ours is like pristine fucking Evian.
I know,
compared
to theirs, I'm sure.
Yeah, ours doesn't come out brown or on fire.
On fire.
Oh damn it, Trump.
Yeah.
In Switzerland. Obviously was not welcomed, right? Did you see that big fuck off banner like Trump not welcome? It was.
I probably did.
Yeah,
I'm sure that I did.
Well, anyway, and then they booed him when he started talking about everything's been great for me except until I got the fake news, and then they booed him because like you're a retard. I was hoping that was going to jar the memory that I was trying to think of.
Oh yeah.
But okay, yeah, it did. So 11 countries have come together to. This is like Japan and Canada and China and other Australia, big countries, right? Mm-hmm. Talking about a $13.7 trillion arrangement where it's going to be tariff free. It's going to be like just free trade among these countries. We were originally part of that deal, but Trump didn't want that because he's all about America first. So guess what? We're no longer part of that almost $14 trillion business deal. Wow, what a master negotiator.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, right? I mean, like...
So, I mean, again, the whole thing with Trump is... and I'm not a big... How do I want to say this? I think Trump... I hate the idea of Trump.
Yeah.
But, I mean...
I thought it was a joke. I seriously did.
Yeah, it is a joke. But
well, I know it is, but it's not a very funny one.
I think it's done a lot of good for a lot of people who were in the position I was in just a few years ago. Being that we need... I believed... So, I mean...
Questions?
Yeah, I believe that... And I still believe that there should be a lot more clarity in government.
Okay.
But I have a friend who's always stood for the fact that, Joe Blow doesn't have the ability to have a good opinion on what's going on.
Right.
So that's kind of the big argument, and Trump is bringing about some things that are really healthy. I think are going to bring about some really healthy conversations if we don't wind up dead. And that is the fact that there are some incredibly complicated things that go on in government for very good reasons.
Of course.
But at the same time, the question of should certain things go on.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that Donald Trump's going to be good for that on a lot of levels as far as opening up
because he's going to force...
Yeah, opening up some doors that have been shut for a long time. Not that he, being president in any way, is... Not that he is like really responsible personally for anything. It's just his presidency is
jarred. So bad, such a clusterfuck. I mean, okay, we can't do this anymore.
It's a comparison of a ship that has just run aground in the doldrums.
Okay.
Probably, they're gonna you shed weight.
Right.
You lose some fat.
Mm-hmm.
Right, and I think hopefully this is maybe starting a trend of that. Hopefully, possibly.
Yeah, don't get me wrong. I don't think government's the answer to everything, but I do think that there are times when it's okay to step in. Like, I take shit from a lot of friends for being pro, call it socialist healthcare. I don't give a shit. Mm-hmm. Medicare for all, Medicaid for all, whatever. You've seen some of my posts where like dude from Canada showed nothing in his hand, and it was the bill for his baby's birth, right?
Right.
For the obstetrician, for the hospital, for everything else, and there was nothing there because he didn't get a bill.
Right.
Right. I don't think it's hard to say that government is the right answer to that, but I can certainly say that letting the insurance companies control healthcare costs and stuff like that is absolutely the wrong answer.
This is a whole other podcast, but insurance is so fucked up.
It is. Trust me, I know.
Okay, so I mean, insurance, and so doctors have taken advantage of this. And I know really great doctors. I have some friends who are doctors, lovely people. Yeah. But a lot of doctors have taken advantage of stuff.
Sure, of course they have.
So watching a Joe Rogan podcast the other day, of course, and he's talking about chiropractors. And he had a chiropractor who treated him for a year for something the chiropractor didn't know anything about, wasn't qualified to treat. And then when he went to the doctor, he found out that he went all the way backwards. And we have people with medical degrees, again, and we see it places like cancer and whatnot, where they're willing to treat the symptoms of something.
Right.
When they they know what it is, they know how to fix it, but the symptoms make them more money.
It's like putting a Valium on a broken leg and giving a dude a Valium.
Right, yeah.
A Band-Aid.
Right, yeah.
Band-Aid on a broken leg and
right.
a Valium.
Yeah.
Because, okay, it's not fixed, but you no longer give a shit.
Mm-hmm. Right.
So,
right, cool. And so we're at a place with, we're talking insurance companies.
Yeah.
The insurance companies are interested in what's going to make them money.
Yep. And that's all.
And that's it.
End of story.
You got insurance companies, they make major investments, they have banks, they've got many other, we should know this is what's coming, but we don't.
Right.
And the thing is that hospitals have to pay so much money to fight insurance companies for payments that they have to charge us out the nose.
Right. Right.
So anybody who's unfortunate enough to have to actually pay their own bills, such as me.
Right. Right.
I get a $3,000 emergency bill. Maybe that would have been like $500 if things were actually getting paid.
Right. I mean, you saw the doctor for, say
10 seconds. I actually didn't see a doctor last time I went to the ER.
All right.
Yeah.
So let's say
he looked at a scan.
All right. Well, okay. Right. So they have to get a doctor involved.
So 10 minutes.
Well, that's only because of insurance policies.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So realistically, you could have seen a nurse practitioner. Say she makes $80K a year. That's not unreasonable for an NP. So her hourly rate about $40 an hour. Just tell it. And so she's till the $40 an hour, and you saw her for 20 minutes. All right. So let's say that she's got 20 minutes. So that's a third of 40. So $14. All right. And then she sees, or she has to hire secretaries and people to keep track of shit. Say it costs her another, $60 an hour. So $100 an hour total. You're in there for 20 minutes. It's a third, $35. She wants to make a profit. Give her 3 times, $100. Good. You made a good profit just now, and I paid you $100, and I'm on my way. Mm-hmm. That's not unreasonable. But that same visit is going to be a minimum of $450 at an ER now, just to say hi to the doctor or say hi to the NP.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it is ridiculous. There are better ways to handle things. We've gotten this far without worrying about a lot of it.
Yeah, yeah.
And now it's time to sit down. And the car insurance situation is just terrible. It's just it's highway robbery is what most of it is.
Literally.
It is.
I know. I mean, I'm okay because I drive a piece of shit and I only have to pay the bare minimum.
Still $50. I think the cheapest I've ever paid is $48 a month, and
that is right now.
Still,
so,
it's robbery.
49 and change.
That's robbery for what you're getting.
Oh yeah, because as soon as I make a claim, my rate gets jacked.
Right. Yeah. Well, and the fact that
what the fuck am I paying you for otherwise?
Right. So and my big thing is I was paying a shitload of money I was paying more. I was paying like $240 something a month was my car payment, and my insurance payment was almost $300 a month to State Farm. And I get hit head on, drunk driver. The guy's high. He's on parole without his license. They totaled the car out, and then they wouldn't take my calls anymore. The legal people who are supposed to be helping me wouldn't take my calls anymore. They say, go get a doctor's appointment. I'm like, great, I'll go make one. So I made doctor's appointments.
That you had to then pay for.
The doctor's appointment is like, can you pay us? I'm like, no. Like, can we verify with your insurance company? I give them the number. They said the insurance company wouldn't verify.
Mm-hmm.
I paid you $300. If I'd have just saved the money, I could have paid cash for every doctor's appointment and been fucking fine.
And a lawyer.
Because I was the only... The guy's driving a truck. He ran over the front of my car. I was the only person who was hurt in the accident. Nobody else needed help. I did.
Right.
And they just said, fuck off. They're like, we're going to total your car out and you can go fuck yourself.
Yep, basically.
I'm like, well, thanks. So I had to move back here. Mm-hmm. My lawyer, who it took 6 months to get anything out of him, just bled from a fucking stone.
Yeah.
And I was paying fucking... I mean, I'm just 22 years old paying premiums for this car that I couldn't hardly afford.
Right.
That's insane. Like, how is that fair? And then now I'm fucked. So now you've got someone who's a working person who's sitting in a hospital and who can't make money, who can't put money back in the economy because their car insurance company fucked them. How is that good for anybody?
It's not. Except for the companies.
Yeah.
It's good for them. Like, so here's the thing. I absolutely with all my heart believe that there is abject collusion between lawyers and insurance companies. There's a reason that we are so litigious in our society. The lawyers are making fucking bank. There's more lawyers per capita in this country than any place else. That's like that's not arguable. That is fact, right? It's like evolution. It is fact. I don't care if you believe in it. It seems so easy, but whatever. All right, skip ahead. And then the insurance companies are not. They don't have the doctor's best interest in mind. They tell the doctors what they're allowed to charge. They dictate what the doctors are allowed to charge. They make it high enough so that the doctors are willing to actually go ahead with those proceedings or procedures, I guess. And then guess what? Somebody's got to pay for it, so we're going to dump that onto you. So not only do you pay premiums to be part of the club, but then when you go to the doctor, you've either got a copay, which is usually obscene, or you've got deductible, which is equally obscene, right? So the insurance company says, all right, you pay us all this money, so we'll take care of you. But we're not going to pay dick until you pony up another $2,500 or $2,500 on your own.
To me, health insurance is just...
It's horrible.
It's silly.
Well, it is.
It's goofy because it's like, first of all, okay, if I have a problem, it costs me $50 to get seen.
Yeah.
Plus my medications.
Just before anything.
You want to charge me $200 a month just in case I have to spend $150, which happens twice a year.
Right.
The only reason I'm doing this is if I wind up in the ER.
Right.
But the ER is willing to work with me, and I'll probably only have to pay them a couple $1,000 max.
Right.
Which is less than insurance for an entire year.
$300 a month for a year, right?
How is this mathematically...
It's not sound.
It's not even...
It's not sound at all.
It's the silliest thing I've ever heard of.
Yep.
I'm just blown away that people...
And we have bought into it. You know, that was one of the things... Okay, so trust and believe. I'm a way bigger fan of President Obama than I am of the Trumpster fire.
Yeah.
Okay, please believe. But, you know, the one thing that I didn't like was the idea that it was mandatory. I don't like what they did with, you know, like sneaking the, you know, like that under the
penalty for not having health care.
Dealing with that, yeah, because that's gonna kill insurance for a lot of
people.
people.
And then the fact that it's mandatory means that the government is okay. This is where to me car insurance is such. This is where it loses. This is where it loses its. There's a word that I want to use, but
merit, value.
Yes, merit.
Merit. Okay.
Is the fact that it is mandated by the government,
yes, it is.
by the state, that you pay for it, which means these people, that's like, I'm a tailor. That's like they say, Mike Gherke, if you want to own a suit, you have to pay Andrew Hardy $300 for alterations, regardless. It doesn't matter what you do with it. If you own it, you pay him $300 for the alterations a month.
Even if you didn't get it altered.
Yeah. No, you don't have to have it altered.
Right,
God,
right.
no.
No.
Just in case you want to have it altered, $300 a month.
Yes. Exactly. It's
It's
and by the way, if I do have it altered, you can raise your rate to $350 a month or $400 a month.
Oh, I mean, if you do have it altered, we're gonna have to put in extra. We're gonna have to pay for the alteration somehow because God knows what we did with $300 a month.
That's a very expensive club membership.
I pay more than that for my porn membership. So I mean, I mean, God, I don't know what I'm gonna do with my life if I actually have to do a job.
Right.
Definitely, what the fuck?
Yep. Yeah, we're not disagreeing here at all. Like, even a little bit. Yeah, it's fucked up. You're right. Okay, so we
I know we're way.
We started talking about abortion versus death penalty.
Yes.
I have a problem with the death penalty because I have trust issues, right? I know that. Okay, so I don't think every crime should be punishable by death. Obviously, that's kind of stupid, right?
It's very biblical.
You steal a loaf of bread and you get punished. They hang you in the street. Well, that's stupid. You walk in on your wife fucking another dude and you shoot them both because heat of passion, whatever, blah blah blah. I don't think they should kill you for that. You're gonna do some time.
What? Okay, you know what? I'm sorry. I'm going to interject because you just mentioned this whole sex thing. People just freak out.
Sex. Everything.
People freak out so bad.
They do.
Okay, well, look at the tension that society and religion have put on us about sex.
Yes.
And in fact, I watched over Christmas with my father-in-law. I watched Shawshank Redemption.
I love that show.
Right, which the guy...
The premise, right.
The whole thing is he got framed for the murder of his wife and lover because he caught them, and he wanted to kill them, but obviously...
But he didn't. He got drunk instead.
So, spoiler alert, after the spoiler happened. Sorry, guys.
Yeah.
But anyway, it's an obvious... It's pretty...
Everybody's seen Shawshank.
But the plot's so obvious, it's just like... It's horrible.
Right.
But it's a pretty good movie.
It is.
It's worth the watch.
I think so. It's one of the better movies made. Yeah.
So the idea that it is a not rational, but even a reasonable response to see someone having sex with someone you may have engaged with sex with or are married to or whatever, is to murder them.
Well, I agree. That's a little harsh.
It's
a little over the top.
So here's what I tell people all the time. Like, I understand. Like, having sex involves you putting a part of your body into someone else's body, and maybe it's a little bit intimate. But the reality is, it's an activity in which adults engage
flesh
in.
Touch flesh. Yeah,
and it essentially not in any more of a way than children playing on a playground. You wouldn't shoot a kid for sliding down a slide because it was yours.
Right. That's true. So... That's why I've kind of always had a problem with the idea of the word wife because it implies ownership, it implies property, and I do not look at Jessie as my property. I don't own her.
Right.
If she decides to go whatever, okay, but understand that I don't want to be involved in that kind of thing.
Right. I mean,
so
if you
I may not welcome you back.
Right. If you don't have multiple partners, that's your whole premise. I don't mean...
Or I may.
Right.
So, there could be a situation where, say, she gets a friend and that friend has, shall we say, tendencies. And, they start to kind of, play along and maybe I want to play along too. Well, all right, cool. Then I'm open. Right. Maybe not. I don't know. It can happen, maybe not. I don't know.
Right. Well, there's an openness to it, and it's the fact that, so you've had sex with someone, you don't own them. It doesn't mean because they've had sex with someone else they can't be a good person, or that it makes any it's just there's some lunacy there. It's the fact that look, I'm in a relationship. We don't have an open relationship.
Right.
But if my fiance was like, I want to go bang this person, I'd have two responses to that. Okay. And one would be, why? And I'd be looking for, is there something more attractive in them? Is there some way I can up my game? And the other one would be, so from a psychological standpoint, sometimes there's an itch you want to scratch.
Sure.
There's no emotion involved.
Right.
When I was a kid, a slide that had 4 rings, that was, you saw those tall slides when you were a kid. You want to go down it. You don't know why. You just want to do it. Yeah. It's just a thing. You don't want to marry the slide and take it home.
Well, you know,
and it's the same as can be. And again, I know there are some bigger risks. There are some other things involved.
Right.
But with sex, it's an activity that two people engage in, and it doesn't necessarily mean that somebody. Like, why is it you engage in it? It's 15 minutes or it's an hour, whatever it is.
Okay, but your scenario involved communication.
Right.
So,
and that's where, I'm sorry. So, I mean, I feel bad, but okay, look. That's what we can't communicate to someone that we have a sexual desire for someone else without it destroying our entire relationship.
Right, and that's a problem. I agree. So, like, when I got married the second time, you know, everything was
much different.
Sort of fine. It was kind of boring, but it was fine. You know, whatever. Well, then we weren't married. Was it 7 or 8 months? 7 months. When she decided she was leaving me for one of my best friends. Well, when I figured it out, right, that I didn't catch him in the act or anything like that. I just, you know, pieced it together and you know, and you know, talked to her about it, and you know, as soon as I called her on it, she did this, like she was looking at me in the eye and then straight to the floor. Yeah. So you're busted. I got you. All right. Well, you know, in that moment, I was a little pissed at her. Not really. I mean, some. I was more betrayed by him. Because he and I had been friends for fucking years. Right. You know, she and I were together a couple of years.
You know,
I felt betrayal. I felt betrayal of anything. I didn't want to kill him. I didn't want to hurt him. I didn't want to beat him up. I didn't, you know, any of that. It was.
There's no communication.
But yeah, I totally didn't see it coming until we were in the interview.
So, okay, that's something I was thinking about the other day. And it is a fact that you have your network, you have your people, you meet someone, you're comfortable with that person, you fall in love with that person. Now you get their network.
Yeah.
The likelihood of them having a more attractive friend is very high.
Yeah, it certainly is.
You may not be... We've been taught that you have to meet someone, fall in love with them, and marry them, and that's just, again, like we talked about the American dream, like that was a thing. Right. And now you're like, well, here's another person. Oh, we kind of like each other, we kind of whatever, you know.
Do you know XKCD? Okay, so look it up. Eventually, not right now.
Yeah.
XKCD, I'll send you a link or something. But it's a comic, and there's one where... you know, dude is just like it's stick figures, so it's really shit comics.
It's basic,
but it's funny as hell. A lot of math, a lot of science, a lot of stuff in there, but you know, once in a while it's sort of, you know, down to earth. And this one falls in that last category, where he's like, yeah, you know, when I was younger, you know, I was thinking I was gonna meet and find the one I loved, and the clouds are gonna open and angels are gonna sing, and it was gonna be awesome. And then the next panel is them at their wedding saying, I do. And the final is them walking away, her still in the wedding dress, and then he sees another woman, and the clouds parting, and
the angels sing. Oh fuck,
and
yes.
And his thought bubble is, oh shit.
Oh, I lost. Yeah. Well, okay, you know, and that is that. But so here's what's wrong. It's not the fact that, okay, you've met someone else, you find them more attractive for one reason or another. Here's the thing. You live with someone after a while, a week, a month, whatever it is.
Right. You get fucking bored.
You do. I mean, you have problems, whatever. Something else looks better. And whether it's a one-night stand or whatever, then that comes down to the way your relationship is arranged with someone. And the way we've developed our relationship situation is really toxic.
How so?
In a lot of ways, it's toxic. So, to me, it's, you know, okay, so you found someone else.
Right.
It's toxic because it's not toxic. It's toxic to both of you in the long run. Because what winds up happening is you do one of two things. You pursue that person. You pursue that emotion and that activity, whether just in your mind or in life, and you keep your partner out of it.
As a man thinketh. Right.
Right? Right. So you keep the other person out of the loop. And now, you know, like you said, you were blindsided.
Yeah.
Or you suppress it within yourself and you do nothing.
Right.
And now you're miserable. You're having sex with a person you don't want to have sex with. You're forcing yourself to live a life you don't want to live. Or you think you may not want to live, but you really don't know because you haven't tried the other one. But you're just miserable and you're dealing with all this turmoil. So here's what you go, you know, well, God said, well, this, that, or I believe, or you can't be unfaithful. No, well, here's what you do. it's simple thing. We call it communication.
Communication, yeah.
If I saw a girl, I was like, wow, I want to tap that, right? So, well, what would I do? Well, I wouldn't go say that to her.
Right.
You know, I wouldn't pursue her. The first thing I would do is I'd go, okay, well, what do I find unfulfilling in my personal sex life?
Right.
That is where I would start. And I would go talk to my fiance about it, and then we'd have a conversation, and then this thing would come up, and then we would talk, we would work through it, and there's communication. There are some hurdles you can't cross, and that's when you know that you part your ways and move forward.
Yeah.
But it's communication, and we have, the way society has developed the relationship status is a format that is telepathical, that doesn't exist. Right? To an extent. What's that?
I just invented a word, telepathological.
Telepathological. Yeah, well, it's the idea that, we know everything about each other. We just love each other.
We're soulmates.
We don't know everything enough. Oh, my God, that's an amazing piece of tail. And then what happens? Well, your world falls apart.
That's awesome.
Because it was built on the idea that there was no one better than this other person. The reality is...
My entire life, I've never seen human hips move that fast. Shakira once.
Yeah.
That was brilliant.
So,
okay.
So what happens is you weren't taught just fucking to communicate with the other person. Right. And it doesn't... The thing is, you go, well, it might be uncomfortable. Maybe it will be detrimental to the relationship. That's what communication is.
We should communicate.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So anyway,
it's true. It's true. I agree. Right. Yeah. Well, I mean, I don't know how much confession this is, but my first marriage was tepid. Mm-hmm. That's the best word I can think of to describe it. 15 years of flatlining, emotionally, sexually, whatever. So.
Now that was a church marriage.
It wasn't arranged by the church, but yeah.
Well, I mean, it was in a church, so I mean, obviously,
temple, right?
It sucked ass.
We were married in the temple, and and so on. And sex after we kind of found our rhythm, like you do with anybody, meant that I fingered her until she came, and then I was allowed to fuck her.
Right.
Wow,
I've got to give you. I want to give you kudos because there are a lot of guys in churches that wouldn't consider that a natural responsibility.
Well, we figured our shit out.
Yeah.
But even though she had kind of a funk that I wasn't really fond of, I still like going down on her. Mm-hmm. I like that. I like the response. I like the everything. But she was very sort of uptight and wouldn't really let me. Mm-hmm. And then getting her to go down on me, oh, holy hell, that was an act of Congress. I mean,
right, yeah.
Bullshit. But once in a while, we'd have a fight that was strong enough that I'd start packing bags and stuff like that. And then, please believe, she'd put on lingerie and suck me off. And
oh my God,
yeah, she's cool. But
now I'm not a bag.
She wouldn't take a load in the face. She wouldn't, she wouldn't swallow or anything like that. She'd do it until she knew I was hard enough and ready to bust a nut, and then she'd climb on.
Yeah.
But that was also the only time that ever she was on top. Usually it was me on top of her. So.
Well, and so okay, you mentioned all that, but things get old, and you have to change things. And if you don't,
correct.
If you don't, then your guy, your girl, whatever, they're gonna go find something else because you haven't changed
this.
Yes.
Well, and I think there's a lot to be said for the notion that the guy didn't cheat on you or the girl didn't cheat on you because the other one was better. They were different.
Yeah.
They weren't you.
Right.
Not that she hates you, not that she's not into you, but, I love filet mignon, but God damn it, if I eat filet mignon 3 times a day for 14 years, I'm going to want a fucking
vomit.
Lobster or, it's fucking pudding.
Right.
Give me something.
Yeah, just not filet mignon. Yes, right, absolutely.
Right. So, yeah. Yeah, I'm with you on that.
No, yeah. But again, all that comes back down to communication. Yep. You're not taught... Why? There's not a relationship class in high school. There's not a finance class in high school.
No, there's not.
There's not a most high schools don't have a communication. If you want to go to communication class, you got to go to college.
Do they even have, what do you call it, home ec anymore?
Probably. That's worthless. That's just 1950s bullshit. So you iron,
here's
so you iron your husband's pants so they're nice and creased.
The tuna casserole is these ingredients.
Yeah, here's how you make chocolate chip cookies. Right? Yeah. No, it's fucking...
Right. Yeah. Yeah,
and not to like. I mean, home
I took
ec is
home ec
fine,
because I didn't like shop. Right. Shop was stupid, and I was in with a bunch of meathead dudes, and couldn't stand it. So I took home ec because hey, I'm in here with the chicks, and
exactly. Well, it's a smart guy's
and
way.
The teacher's hot,
right?
So, yeah, I'm in, man.
Of course.
Yeah.
Think with your dick.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of guys do. And here's the thing: as much as we know, as much as people know, and as much as society has, there's a word for it, but as much as they've stereotyped
okay,
men with thinking with their dick, girls don't get it.
But
a lot of girls and a lot of
too.
Well, some of them do. A lot of them don't. Yeah. A lot of guys don't get it.
Right.
Guys fucking think with their dick and like just like gotta like I understand people who don't understand that.
Right.
Like,
right. Just admit it. Just go ahead. Okay. It's okay. It's okay.
It's just the way that it works.
Little heads thinking more actively than big head.
Mm-hmm.
Work with me on this.
Right. Well, anyway. So I mean that was a tangent.
Right. Tangents are fun. We're good at this. We are so rabbit hole-ish.
It's just we should call it the Rabbit Hole Podcast.
Yeah, that's a good name.
Let's do that. Let's rebrand because I've only got like 40 likes on Facebook. So I mean, it's not like this.
Well, okay, so the Rabbit Hole, and then I'll start trying to brand and whatever. I'm not really good at that, but I'll see what I can figure out.
Well, that's fine.
Yeah, but. Yeah, it's good times anyway. Oh
God!
Especially after number 2 kicks in, and then like, woo, all right, suelte.
All right.
Swifty.
Have you seen that episode of Rick and Morty?
No.
We just need to videotape us watching Rick and Morty all 3 seasons.
Through what?
3 seasons. There are 3 seasons.
3 seasons. Oh, yes. So like a Mystery Science Theater.
Maybe, I don't know. But
do you know that movie?
No, I don't.
It was a TV series actually, but what it was they showed a really just shitty movie, right? Usually black and white on a screen.
Oh, is there like a commentary?
Down in front, there's like 3 people. Two of them are space aliens, and one of them's a human, and they're stuck on this flight or this spaceship, and they have to watch these movies, right? I don't know why. I forget the plot. But they made commentary about these just horrific bad movies. So yeah, that could be.
They did something like that at Mac a while back. But yeah, no, this is amazing. So you said whatever you said, and it reminded me of Get Swifty.
Swifty, okay.
And so what is these aliens invade Earth.
Right.
And they threaten to destroy Earth. Or no, it's not aliens. It's a head. It's an alien head. It's a head. It's a ship, but it's a head. Okay. Anyway, and so he's like right down there, near Earth, and he's like, I want to see your best band or whatever. So, all kinds of people. So, I mean, of course, they have guest stars and whatever on who do voices for, whatever. Right.
That's cool.
Well, so Rick and Morty, who the show is about, they wind up coming up with this song because Rick is he's high or drunk all the time.
Okay.
And he's a scientist.
Right
You'd appreciate him.
Like my kind of person.
But anyway, yeah. So they come up with Rick's playing, or Morty's playing, and Rick sings a song, and he calls it just "Get Swifty."
Get Swifty.
And it just is. It's fucking hysterical. It's the best thing in the world.
Right on. Yeah. No. I Svelte is what I was saying, which is kind of an imperative verb tense of get loose.
Oh, okay.
Or get smooth.
That's probably what Get Swifty. I think Get Swifty has to do with pooping. I'm not sure.
Right.
But anyway. All right. Well, I think we'll probably call that it for today.
All right.
Thank you guys for joining us. We will see you next week.
Sure.
We'll see you next week.